If you had a time machine, what would you do? Would you go back in time to kill Hitler? Make sure everyone knows the correct pronunciation of GIF? To relive some of the best StarCraft 2 of the last 10 years? Well, those first two options remain open, because I want to introduce to you, returned from the military after lending his strategic and tactical wisdom. It is the machine, INnoVation. One of the best Terran players of all time, known not so much for what his name implies, but instead pretty much the exact opposite. Consistent, defensive, offensive, balanced Terran play. One of the top Terrans, but is up against another player with a similar style, though picking Protoss to kick things off. It's the Shield of Ire. It is Stats. Yes, a match that could have been the World Finals in 2017. Instead, right here for us today, during the ITAC Super Series, a best of 5 between these two, starting off with INnoVation's Reaper. Killing 3 probes, bouncing the Adept away. I'm very excited. INnoVation just came back. When he left for the military, he pretty much said, probably not. My career, I don't know, but probably not coming back. Stats left things a little more open, but I am glad to see. We've already seen some of Stats, as he has had a few more weeks, beating Sue just recently, and now kicking things off. I'm very excited. Even if it is just the most cookie-cutter standard, these players define the standard. They were some of the most solid in the history of SC2. Something that has been volatile, to say the least. So, if you're excited, and I'm excited, well then, like and subscribe before we get things started, because you might not have much more time, as Stats proxied a Stargate alongside the Adept Pressure. And we'll get in. Oh, we don't mind, we'll burrow. Another Adept in the natural. Already a bit of a hectic start here for INnoVation, who's not quite able. And how appropriate, slash annoying for casters, but how appropriate, INnoVation playing on a barcode. The only player I'll allow to get away with it, with only mild annoyance. Because, you know, that might just be his first name. Oracle's doing an inordinate amount of damage. Melting, oh wow, calculated. Even the SCV trying to heal with the medevac. There's nothing left to heal. There's no more Marines. He's already taken so much damage. Yeah, got a couple kills on the Adepts. And of course, on the probes on the other side. But that damage has already been equaled and then some. Cyclone comes out. Something to drive away these early Stargate units. And meanwhile, trying to... sends the medevac out with the Widow Mines. Burrows one. Maybe tries to bait with the other. Keep some maneuverability here. But Stats notices in time. So we'll have to calm down a bit and move on. I think more than enough damage done. He didn't lose anything. And of course, we're not counting Adepts here. But overall, Stats keeping all those Stargate units alive gives him near perfect map vision. He did some damage. He has a good bead on INnoVation's build. He knows that it was 1-1-1, that it wasn't a bunch of Marines and Marauders about to stim across the map, and he has a little bit of time to build up back at home. He's got a Twilight Council, adding on the Forge, and just building probes up on that third base. He's going to be sitting on a comfortable economy, but has to be careful not to get carried away, as the most dangerous time is coming soon, right as the triple threat kicks in, the Stim, Combat Shield, and +1. No Combat Shield for INnoVation yet, as his production and additional barracks were slowed by the Oracle harassment there. But has everything up and running now. So Stats, he's up to 56 probes and counting. We're still looking at only 3 gateways. Only 3 gateways, and no robotics facility. So, oh, there we go. All right. Well, Stats slapping a whole bunch of gateways at the corner of his base. A bit of an Artosis pylon there. A bit... oh, well. A tasteless pylon warped... oh. Tasteless, you know what? Tasteless comes in holding 2 pylons like bags of groceries with baguettes sticking out of them, so you know they're bags of groceries. I can picture that, except instead of baguettes in the bags, they're pylons. And then he walks in, the studio audience laughs, and Artosis says, "What's this?" And Tasteless says, "I brought you an extra. You seem like someone who might need it." And Artosis frowns, and then everybody chuckles. And that's how I imagine that sitcom going, because I've been deprived of Tastosis at GSL for a little while. Moving on. Oh, well, Cyclone is, of course, spotted, locked on with the Cyclone. He picks up... What a name! Picks up with the Phoenix and interrupts that lock at the last possible second. A bunch of Blink Stalkers. A lot of them, I think, scanned here. There's a stasis on the high ground. Blocks forward. Snaps up the Cyclone. Looking for the Raven, though. Good force field so far. Zoning out. Some more sentries at the back. Force fields isolating the Marines. And, eats a Widowmine hit, but pushes them away. So between the Revelation and the force field so far, Stat's doing a good job of isolating small parts of INnoVation's army and taking him out, which is, you have to be very careful with Blink Stalkers and Sentries, not known for their DPS, just their ability to control the pace of the fight between Blink and Force Field. Well, here we go. That's a bunch of bio. +1 is done. Combat Shield is there. Slaps down 3 auto turrets, and Stats will have to back off. I don't believe there is a Warp Prism to back this up. There is a robotics facility. There is a Warp Prism. I take it all back. Where is... the Prism's making its way across, not reinforcing the main army for now. Stats is trying to trade. Does he not know about the third? He might be assuming INnoVation's stuck on 2 bases, but that is not indeed the case. If INnoVation was on 2 base, I think this would make a little more sense. Those not-so-charged lots wandering up, but the Widowmines knock them right back down. The Raven wanders in too. Bit of miscontrol there. A bit of rough around the edges for INnoVation. You can definitely see. A bit awkward to start here, but still in a very comfortable, well, not so comfortable, but capable position as we go into the mid-game. More Widowmines connecting. The charge lots are trickling in. They'll have to wander past some of those Stalkers. Picks up one of the Marauders, but the Bio Army is far too much. The single target healing against the single target damage. The medevac count is nearly equaling the Marauder count, and the Marauder count is quite healthy. The concussive shells kicking in, kiting back over to the right flank. Reinforcements getting cut off by some of the Stalkers, but the boys are pulled to minimize the damage. A whole lot of the Marauders were taken out. Some of the medevacs were shaved off, but overall, I don't love how that fight went. Now, Jimmy, please tell me we have this set. We do? Oh, very, very cool. Overall, INnoVation got the better end of that exchange, but about an even trade. The only issue I take it back. I didn't even look at the production tab. He's already 2 steps ahead. I was going to say the issue is this unit composition doesn't scale, though. As Marauders and Marines and Medevacs grow in number, it becomes harder and harder to compete with them with gateway units, which is why Stats is not going to. He's got 2 Colossi at a time, extended thermal lance being chrono boosted, as well as a Templar Archives in production. He just needs to buy time in order to get across, well, in order to delay for this production. And now, moving up, he's going to encourage INnoVation to think twice about stimming. Little does INnoVation know that now is possibly the most vulnerable time for Stats in the near future, especially considering he's still going for Thermal Lance. He doesn't really have anything out of the Templar Archives. He's getting a 4th base. Stats right now is feigning strength while he's weak. And later on, when he pulls back or lets INnoVation move out on the map. Oh, this is beautiful. He's kind of just sending a few Stalkers forward, poking and prodding. That'll poke the bear, if you would. INnoVation chases, but guess what's happening on the other side, to the north? The Warp Prism drops out, a handful of charge lots to the natural, a couple more into the main, can of course warp in another round, and INnoVation is so far across the map. He has no chance to come back and deal with this. He's going to lose so much of his economy. In fact, not really paying attention. Stats jumps him on the field. EMP lands, but the Colossi have already gotten some big thermal lances off. And INnoVation is losing most of his production, a lot of his SCVs, trying to take the fight on the other side, but he's already lost so many units, and 4 Colossi is a tall order in every sense of the word. GG Stats with immaculate execution in Game 1. That was quite cut and dry there. Very solid game out of Stats. INnoVation kind of being led by the nose as the simplest bait and switch, but that entire game felt like Stats was in the driver's seat and INnoVation was just trying to keep up. But there's a reason we play best of anythings, and it is because otherwise we'd have the ladder, which Protoss dominates. So, Game 1 goes to Stats, but the machine maybe just needs to warm up. Also, I mean, it does take a little bit to get back in the swing of things. From my understanding, when it comes to Korean military service, a lot of the players will choose a administrative position, something you can probably stay at home. You just aren't allowed to participate in tournaments or anything that'll keep you from being like on call or something like that. But I think a lot of the players will choose to at least have an opportunity to, in the evenings or whatever, still play. Not sitting in the front lines or... honestly, nowadays, I think internet is available pretty much anywhere, but it'd be interesting to know how much these players play. Like, I know Parting's coming back relatively sometime this year. Zest still has a long while. It is unfortunate, but it is great to see so many players. Also in the same tournament, TY. Probably my favorite Terran of Legacy. I know Beyond's back, but TY is like the best versions of Beyond and Maru. The strategical mastermind. The only guy... Well, I gotta say, TY, while we're on the topic of returning players, TY is a bit of a bad example, though, because TY, he skipped work. And in esports, that's kind of a no-no. What do I mean? So, TY was supposed to be one of the Korean GSL casters for the GSL finals. He had been casting the whole season, but he didn't show up to cast for the finals because he was busy beating Maru in those same finals. So, way to make the rest of us look bad. Reaper comes out, and we'll be seeing some of those TY games soon. And then you'll be saying, TY VM Winter, I'm so glad to see these games with you. I liked and subscribed already. Oh. Reaper jumps up. That first probe confirmed it. INnoVation. Wait, did he see the 2 gas? No, he was blocked at the door here. Stats is walling off that low ground. Reaper looking for something. He's not going to see the Twilight. The probe! Citizen's arrest. Ooh. INnoVation get a little greedy there.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
I think seeing the Twilight is more important than getting a probe kill or 2. The point of the Reaper is that tech. In fact, he could have just jumped up, but instead commits. Gonna hide. Will Stats fall for it? Yes. It appears we have the return of the random Widowmine location meta. Does he see? Stats. Sees no expansion. He noticed, just until you do not have much time to react to that, but notices it pull back, which does kind of imply there's going to be some sort of drop or some shenanigans coming out of the Terran. Stats on top of it here. But here comes the mine drop. 3 Widow Mines have the potential to do devastating damage or nothing at all. There's quite a range when it comes to the Widow Mine medevacs. Especially considering we're seeing the Blink first here. The robotics facility is about to finish. There is no armory. Yeah, no armory at the moment. So that means just your classic Widow Mine Drill. Like I said, these players not known for necessarily their originality, but instead their precision. Oh no. 2 Stalkers warping in. The Widow Mine will be triggered. Stats is sacrificing. They'll expect one of us. INnoVation thought about coming back to save the mines, but would have very likely just ended losing the medevac. So the minimum amount of damage each Widow Mine could do, 1 probe sacrificed for each one. Essentially diffused that mine drop. Well done by Stats. Siege tank already set. INnoVation setting up his Blink Stalker defense. Understanding that with those Stalkers, and I believe you saw the Twilight now. Stats could have waited out Blink to try to dodge the mine shots, but that would have wasted a bunch more mining time as well. Wow, the medevac's gonna make it out. Blink Stalkers, does he see the tank? He might find an angle, gets hit by a shot there, wants to back off, and he will in time, picks off a single Marine, but in the main. Auto turret, gonna be quite annoying here, gets 2 kills. So continues to deny the mining. Oh, that Stalker blinked the wrong way and came to the wrong neighborhood, clearly. Down it goes. And this is quickly, the returns are diminishing. As 5 Blink Stalkers is just enough to be able to kill Marines in a single volley. But he must be very careful. Especially considering Stats is rushing Storm. It's going to be Charge and Storm. We're going the other direction with the tech tree here, growing towards the Templar. Oh, INnoVation tried to sneak by, but there's not quite enough airspace. He has to go back over those rock pillars or whatever they are out there. Storm is a bold choice, but it is one we've been seeing a little more lately, so. Oh, feedback! I'm sorry. I was getting caught up in the weather forecast. I just love how planned Stats' bases look. I know, it feels like the older you grow, the more you like games where you're building your city as opposed to your army. But I'm not the only one excited for City Skylines 2. So, the medevac made it home, but Stats has always been... A lot of Protoss is about preparation. You know where your batteries and your pylons and your gateways are going to go before the game starts, or at least the options. Because even a little missed detail could have long-term consequences, even if it's just how you lay out your gateways in your main, whether depowering your production or making it very hard to deal with medevac drops. We've seen both things in the past, and players have definitely lost games because of it. Down goes an observer. Marine's so excited they keep stimming. We'll turn that into a chase on the Stalkers here. Is Storm ready? Well, yeah, clearly. 2 forges on the way. Stats is sitting at 60 probes. This is just a 2-base INnoVation for now. He's adding a 3rd command center, so he's not all in here. The Warp Prism isn't done. The Warp Prism usually used to carry those Templar, make things a little easier. Oh, but anti-armor missile, great micro away out of Stats. And he picks the Templar up into the Prism to avoid danger and have that extra mobility. Trying to negate some of the... Oh my god, beautifully done by Stats here so far. Gonna drop the Templar out, dropping the Storms. It morphs the Archon right on top of everything, but taking so much damage from that bio. A lot of the key tech units, they're both of them are this is like a lightsaber duel. They're surgically removing those key parts of the army, and left over essentially are just the survivors. Like that, it was the tanks and the Widow Mines against the Templar and the Archon. Most of the rest survives for both players, and the supply gap is really significant now. As INnoVation has not lost a critical mass of his bio army, he doesn't need ghosts if he has enough medevacs. And here we see part of the reason why. As he goes into the main, there's only a couple Templar. He still has that Raven in the back that's been growing energy for quite a while yet. Widow Mine, maybe we'll connect on the probes, but now, even though Stats has a pretty decent setup for dealing with this, there's still the mineral patches to consider. And meanwhile, at the 3rd, he knew this army was out there, but it looks like INnoVation. With the double drop, he's tearing Stats apart. Oh, the damage has already been done, but the Widow Mine's actually adding a lot into Stats' army. It looks just like too much. INnoVation with a comfortable double-prong victory there. I'm not really sure what went wrong for Stats. It just felt like he didn't have the production to keep up. The Storm wasn't enough to compete. I do have to point out here, we missed it in the load screen, but Stats is using the SOS portrait, and INnoVation's using the Maru portrait, which I find highly amusing. Stats taking one of the most, we rarely have too many of these nowadays, one of the most YOLO toss of StarCraft 2 history. And INnoVation, of course, Maru. So, something to aspire to for both sides. I'm highly amused. The little details. Well, now we see INnoVation able to execute. That was... They're both really living up to their reputations. It almost feels like we haven't missed a day, even though it's been a couple years since we've seen these two, especially facing off against each other. INnoVation with an uninspired... I don't know why he named himself. Explain to me. So, I want to talk about this. He named himself INnoVation, but that's bogus. Which was his name in Brood War. INnoVation's Brood War name was bogus. So, maybe it's just a long-form joke. Jimmy, come and bring that up one more time. He's just smirking. I feel INnoVation has been smirking at us his entire career. You guys thought I was creative, but instead I was just very good at like 2 different builds. Stats, on the other hand, just in line with Korean players choosing names that are random English nouns. Of course, I am not... Before those in glass houses would cast stones, I would rather cast StarCraft, so we're gonna stop the hypocrisy there. Thank you guys for watching. I'm so excited. It's another proxy Stargate, but somehow he makes proxy Stargate feel like a real macro build. As we saw in Game 1, the proxy Stargate just used to get in before there is like a widow. Oh my god, the Reaper found the Zealot. What are you fancy seeing you here, sir? Well, that's going to keep him busy for a bit. And this is kind of a one-base build out of Stats. He's adding a depth. He's trying to use that high ground, but the Reaper maneuvers around. And the Zealot not feeling great about it. He's just going to try to drag him off into the corner. The Probe has done a non-zero amount of damage to the supply depot at the front. Zealot chases, but blasted away before... What? A Void Ray. Okay. This is no longer some shenanigans here. This is committed. There is no expansion. The Zealot... I wouldn't put it... He saw it. He saw INnoVation knows. The Zealot may have been intentionally spotted. I don't think so, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, because it delayed the scout. He's doing a shield battery. Jeez. Oh my. This build was good before Stats left for the military. What do I mean? Void Rays were nerfed last year. They no longer... They're more expensive. I forget, how did we actually nerf it? They're more expensive. They build slower. Remember they were buffed several years ago, which is when this build became very popular. But now they're not nearly as cheap or effective at shutting down. This was one of the scourges of the ladder for quite a while. And Stats is breaking it out. This is a time capsule build. It doesn't mean it's not still dangerous. But INnoVation should have a bit of time before the Void Ray count gets out of hand. He's getting a Cyclone, he's got a Viking, he's got the Widow Mines. Not getting supply blocked is another key part of all this. The Reaper is still alive, still doing damage. He triggered the Widow Mine, it looks like, with the Adept. Trying to target it down, lights up a Void Ray. Prismatic Alignment does extra damage to the Viking, but not to the Marines. It's only a bonus to armor. He didn't kill the mine. There's a gateway out of the way. Stats somehow is somehow is making the very methodical effort here. I was trying to gather my thoughts, just like Stats trying to gather those Void Rays, but one gets taken out, and you can't repair them. I don't think the Terrans are going to help them out with repair right now, considering, you know, everything that's happening currently. And now more shield batteries at the front. Losing that Void Ray is kind of a big deal here. There's about to be Mag Field Accelerator, which isn't as incredible of a counter to specifically this as it once was. As the bonus upgrade, the Mag Field Accelerator does 10 bonus damage to everything, as opposed to plus 20 versus armor. So marginally less effective at dealing with exactly this, but still going to be helpful against the... Trying to bait him into the mine. There's some Stalkers here. The battle will continue. Oh, gets another Void Ray. The Viking's really helping out. Also, Viking's more microable. Oh, is he committing? Oh, that's too much. Oh, that was too much damage. He lost the Cyclone, but yeah, that's not happening. That Whittle Mine, Stats did not account for it. Wow, what a filthy cheese, but thoroughly dispatched by INnoVation. Well, a good idea. Maybe a test of whether that still works, but clearly... Oh, here we go. As you see, Stats with the SOS portrait, INnoVation with Maru. As we load in to Game 4. Some quick games so far, but INnoVation up 2-1 after that lactose intolerance. Okay, Stats. I truly feel that was a... I wonder if... I wonder if this still works. I mean, if you don't lose the first... It's very precarious. It's more expensive and less effective, but it doesn't mean you can't do the Void Ray cheese. Just... It's significantly committed with incredibly little margin for error, especially against INnoVation. That first Void Ray was the beginning of the end, and the second Void Ray was the end of the end. It was pretty short. Also, I want to point out that INnoVation has been going for the 2-gas opener throughout the last few games. After the first one, I think, is when he switched over to that, which allows him to get the factory much more quickly. At least before the expansion, you do sacrifice that extra expansion and that extra economy in favor of getting tech early on, but so far it's definitely paid off, as 2 games in a row he's taken off the back of it. Alright, where's that factory? Stats, back to the 1-gate expand here. Slapping down a second gas. He did build a Reaper wall. I won't even criticize here until we get to that point. Still mixed feelings about the Reaper wall. Reactor immediately after the Reaper here. We've seen a few players try the multiple Reaper Hellions sort of style, very TVT-esque, which can work well if you catch the first unit. If it's a Stalker, if it's an Adept, 2 Reapers and a Hellion can usually kill it. But if you lose any of them, then suddenly you're left with a lot committed and very little to show for it. So, does see the Stargate, but not gonna get out. Uh-oh. Oh. Oh, no, he can't. Oh, no! You're definitely locked in here with me. Look, even the little railings on the balcony. Oh, INnoVation, a little sloppy there. He does see the Stargate, importantly, but now lost the Reaper, which means the Adept can go straight across the map. Both of them. There's nothing tying them at home. And that is the big risk you take, going for that committing so much with the Reaper. And now Stat's gonna work his way across. We see Phoenix first. The most conservative and all-around choice out of the Stargate. And I think that bodes well, as Stats seems to have pulled back on the early aggression. Cyclone. The basic counter to most early game Protoss, though not a particularly well scale. It doesn't scale incredibly well because, well, it kills one of the adepts. The less units there are, the easier it is to use. Good for picking off an adept, stalker, an oracle. It's okay against warp prisms and phoenixes, though less reliable because, of course, there could be more units to protect them. Or the phoenix itself can interrupt with the graviton beam, as we saw in Game 1. But all around has been established as the best just all defense unit. We saw last game against the Void Rays as well. Something to help knock things down. Robotics facility, kind of hidden at the back. Not sure if it's intended to be hidden or just he likes that spot for it. It looks like we're going to be speeding into Colossi behind. Which, one of the other popular styles, is essentially branching out the tech tree in both directions. You got your air, you got your phoenixes to control it, and then you got your Colossi for the masses of bio. And now it looks like INnoVation may very well test the Reaper wall to see if he can get any free damage here. Which is, I mean, the Reaper wall paid off in the fact it killed the Reaper, but at the same time, there's a chance it could be used against him. And indeed here, INnoVation gonna set up. Got a Cyclone, got those Marines, there's a Rollbay already on the way. There enough, he's gonna kill the Gateway. Honestly, the Gateway probably more important than the Cyber Core at this stage, as Stalkers are unlikely to be built, but shading the Adepts. The Cyber Core itself is vulnerable. Interesting choice, shades the Adepts all the way by. Might be able to just pick up the tank. Wants to be careful not to chase with everything. This is kind of a weird fight. And, oh, speaking of picking up, that's not exactly what I meant. The SCV repairing the tank in the air. The Adept is fighting the tank. It's not quite enough. Just one more hit. But not going to get it. What a messy start. The SCV is still alive, so it can get repaired. It can't be damaged. He could put it in... No, well, now he can't. This is awkward. Well, the medevac, that's just a bunch of phoenixes here. He has to rebuild the Cyber Core. I think in this case, the Reaper Wall served as a buffer, a distraction for INnoVation, who got the Cyber Core, he got the Gateway, but he also lost 2 tanks. And anything else? Well, not that much, actually. He lost just the Viking. But the damage will start adding up here. Phoenix is looking for an opportunity. Have to slide back out as the Cyclone locks on. Stats taking a third. Now building his first Colossus, as well as an extended thermal lance. And filling in the Twilight and the Forge as well. Bringing everything together. But INnoVation going to have 2 more medevacs popping out. The triple threat Stim Combat Shield +1. Really don't want to lose any medevacs right now if you don't have to. Oh, in the main, but the bait gets hit by a mine. And the reinforcing Marines. INnoVation got to be real careful about this airspace here. Terran player is not used to caring quite so much about it, but the Phoenixes are doing real work, and this is exactly the opposite of what you want to do as Terran. This is a horrible feeling. He's going to get 1. Yeah, well, that was a pretty obvious observer. Is that Colossus? It's not walled in. It's a Colossus. You can just walk over everything. Yeah, just had a weird path. Going back and forth, chasing units that fly 3 times as fast as you can walk, is just, it just has to take essentially a maze in order, right? Yeah, they're getting out. Has to go, like, all the way up through here, down back. We'll try to catch the next Colossus. Stats has been doing such great work with these Phoenixes. They're all badly bruised. Unfortunately, once again, they can't get repaired. But the Phoenixes have bought him the time he needs. Extended thermal lens, just completed. Multiple, 2 Colossi. 3 is the money number. 3 Colossi can easily melt Marines, and they can start doing real damage. Yep, oh my god. Prancing around. All the way back. Alright. And back through the mineral line, and it adds like 10 seconds to the production time. It actually might affect this fight, as the Colossus didn't get there. Oh, it almost cost him, that whole maze. I don't think it's going to be enough from INnoVation to break through quite yet. But, yeah, the Colossus maze almost cost him a fight. Without that third Colossus, I think the Marauders are able to keep doing damage. And the Marines are able to add to it as well. He very likely doesn't lose the game, but... INnoVation rebuffed. But able to pull back. And has that third command center completed. But now getting very similar to game 1. With the added wrinkle of the Phoenixes here for stats. The Phoenixes are... The Phoenixes delayed the Templar, in this case, as he's just now adding the Archons in. There are Ghosts on the way. But at the same time, they've really kept INnoVation pinned back. He has 58 SCVs to 66 probes. Neither player building workers, indicating that's not an accident. It is indicating they both are really focused on production and want to try to hit their timings, whether on defense or offense. Yeah, INnoVation building up now as he's ready to move out, but going to need those extra SCVs as the Zealots drop into the main. There's nothing back at home to defend. I take it back. There were enough Ghosts close enough that he has to pick right back up. If he could get the Prism, that's a massive weight off his shoulders and off the main base. Here come the Vikings. Oh my god, look at the map vision from stats. He knows the map is dark and full of Terrans. He has beautiful observer placement, but down goes the War Prism. He's going to try to seize this particular opportunity, and indeed he will. As the Colossi are stepping up, the Phoenix is joining the fray as INnoVation tries to drop his own base to escape this. The Observer is just on top of everything. Oh my god, he's playing with essentially map hacks. He's put a lot of effort into these map hacks, but he knows exactly where INnoVation is and is setting up his army to meet him. Yeah, a nice spread to start the Viking count. Not quite high enough, especially with the Phoenixes. He spreads out, which minimizes the damage of the EMPs. There aren't enough Ghosts in order to make the difference. The Archons are still bullying their way forward. The Ghosts are caught behind, and Stats is able to pick up the stragglers that still have energy here on the Phoenixes. And overall, making this fight look quite one-sided. The pre-spread, he caught INnoVation essentially in the concave between his thermal lances. The Phoenix is buffered for the Vikings and the Archons on the ground. And now you can hear the Ghost dying. 20 SCVs alongside this. Even if INnoVation was able to pull together a defense, his economy is shattered. A beautiful, methodical, and well-executed victory from Stats. I love to see it. The Phoenix is one of my favorite units when used well. It is quite a fragile one, a brittle choice, but pays off there. Stats clearly in his element in that more defensive back row game. Maybe not so much with the proxy Stargate cheese. Well, that brings us to Game 5. Jimmy, thank you. Like and subscribe. I think we're going to be seeing more of them, but I'm excited. I do, to be honest. Of course, I was going to cast INnoVation versus Stats. Like, there's no way I'm shying away from that one. But I would love to see them. Like, I want to see INnoVation versus MaxPax. MaxPax had not yet risen from his status as a golden retriever to one of the best Protoss players in the world. I think maybe a little bit before INnoVation went to the military, but overall not. I never really had much of an opportunity to see them. Even it's been a while, like some of the players in Korea, like Beyond versus Stats, I'd love to see as well. There's a wide array. It is just that these two have such a standard style. Add them to the roster as players you'll watch against anyone. And so far, I'm not noticing INnoVation clearly a little out of practice of defending the counterattacks, of preparing for certain builds like those Phoenixes build. Yeah. Let me try that again. Edit that out. Like those Phoenix builds. But the mechanics are clearly there. Still dangerous. Right up until he walks into the Colossi. All right. Yeah, I think it could go either way at this stage. Stats probably has the edge if he's able to get any sort of early game damage or just crush one of INnoVation's pushes. Whereas if INnoVation is able to, pretty much the same thing. Those simple edges, it was so clear, the game plan from Stats, which is use those Phoenixes to maintain control of the early mid-game, and then from there get up to 66 probes exactly, build gateway production, and fill in Colossi. No, I take it back. That last game, it was Colossi before the third base and 66 probes. That's important to add in. And then the once he crushed the first push, and the follow-up medevacs, adding in the third, and adding on gateway production and enough to buffer on the ground. It sounds complicated. I'm meandering around the explanation, but it actually was quite simple and clear. All right. Reaper comes back. That SCV now slightly more vulnerable to Adept shading in, which I think was kind of the point. Also, another key point, I believe that is 4 out of 5 on the Stargate. Oh, the one game he didn't go Stargate was Gresvin, and that was the game Stats ended up losing. Essentially just to the medevac bio pressure. Because, and I agree with this, the Blink Stalker's not really that great at doing counter damage. They might be okay at defense, but they're just kind of a poor man's Phoenix when it comes to counter damage, especially if you're not going all in. If you're going for like 5-6 gateways, then you can't kill someone with 6 Phoenixes, or even 8 Phoenixes. In fact, technically you can't kill them at all with Phoenixes because they can't kill buildings, but that shouldn't be relevant. But, whereas 10, 12 Blink Stalkers or so can definitely end the game if they end up at the wrong place at the wrong time, or well, the right place at the right time, depending on which side you're rooting for. Once again, the Phoenixes. He was comfortable with the strategy. It clearly paid off for him last game. And we're going to go with it again. He's skipping Oracles. Oracles are too vulnerable to Widow Mines. Get one shot by him. That's a huge investment to lose. The Raven now costs as much as an Oracle. 150, 150. If it gets taken out by the Phoenixes, that'll leave INnoVation in the same situation. Will INnoVation send the Raven out to try to sneak some damage, or will he add it in with the army? A lot of players will send it out despite its vulnerability. In that case, oh my god, doing the Phoenix mating dance, which is designed to induce nausea, and whoever induces the most. Well, that's how corrosive bile was invented. Anyways. Yeah, nausea, don't worry, there's no risk of it for the Protoss, because once again, they don't have mouths. Robo is on the way. We're at the timing of a Widowmine drop. 4:30 to 5:15 is usually around there. So Stats moving out to try to intercept, and now upon not seeing it, decides to just send those Phoenixes across. We see the Cyclone meeting them in turn. Now both sides know. The Cyclone gives away the likely lack of a Widowmine drop, whereas the Phoenixes give away the Phoenixes, because that's most of what Stats is focusing on by this point. Robotics may behind it. Immortal on the way, and third Nexus in production. Stats feeling a little more confident this time. Almost no gate production, just 2 gates so far. So very reliant on these proto-mech, Protoss mech composition. The Robos and the Stargates here. The Phoenix fleet. He's kind of pre-spreading him out, I think, because if a Widowmine hits, then it isolates the damage. Observer sneaking up. How many Phoenixes? 7? Going on 8. Yeah, is he really gonna fight? He may win. Loses 1. But he's just fighting the Marines. Wow. Okay. He picks the fight. He saw there were no... Well, he got in before the medevacs, before Stim. The Marines are so angry they just want to shoot at something, so choose the D. I like how INnoVation has the command center built into his barracks line. Just some added defense potentially against Blinkstalkers. It wasn't Blinkstalkers, but oh, he picks up. It's just barely in range. That gives away the Observer, but he has to stim back. Oh, this Phoenix control is beautiful. And it is an art. Phoenix is, while they can attack while moving, actually getting them to gliding, because they have a lot of, it takes a while for them to accelerate and decelerate, which is why it's so important to try to keep moving when possible. And stats, like a swan or a particularly graceful walrus, slides in and picks up its prey and gets out smoothly. Oh god, another mating dance going over there. It's not meant for Terrans to observe, just to keep him moving. Like, if you're on patrol, your units are moving and are more easily able to maneuver because they don't have to go from a dead stop, which is not something that's particularly relevant except at this level, where that half second or that quarter second could be the Stim Marines getting a Phoenix, where they wouldn't otherwise. But INnoVation has been kind of pinned back into his base yet again. He's got the +1. He's building a lot of Vikings. We'll see. Oh, that's a full energy Raven, which could definitely factor into the fight. Interference Matrix, anti-armor missile stats. Doesn't have quite as perfect map vision as he had it in the past. Is that a Widowmine in the middle of the map? No, a Marine. He deals with it easily. Taking a 4th. We've now see everything coming together. The plan. I love it. It's coming together. As we have charge most of the way done, +1. Ground weapon for Protoss completed. And gravitic drive for the Prism. I don't think he meant to pick up that Colossus. Yeah, I was just on the same rally point. Gravitic drive will allow you to actually move past turrets with the Warp Prism and potentially warp in. So, a very cool addition and makes a lot of sense. And in fact, INnoVation agrees as he adds a couple more turrets. Stats may very well be there before it finishes. But INnoVation's still sitting back. He's got the Ghost Academy on the way. Stats, content to let him sit on 3 bases. He himself already has 4. Yeah, oh, the Warp Prism makes it by with that gravitic drive. Barely takes any damage. Might be able to get a warp in before the Vikings come home, and Stats is at the 3rd as well. The army drawn out of position. The important Vikings are not here. The bunker, though, in a great position, as well as the Sim City in the main for INnoVation. Anti-armor missile connects. The Dorito dust will force him back. The positioning of the barracks funneled the charge lots in. That is what these two players are all about. It's preparation. They're ready before the battle starts, so that way they can take a good one. The Zealots were funneled into this little choke point here and gunned down. The Vikings come back and defend. And the bunker, while yes, it's clearly delaying some of the gas mining, that bunker stalled out Stats' army for long enough to land the anti-armor missile. And with that, Stats is unable to continue the fight. Now, by no means was that a devastating defeat. That is the most obvious hallucinated Colossus I've ever seen, but Stats did not really lose much. He eventually lost the Prism, but INnoVation did have to stay at home, so he's able to rebuild. All that did for INnoVation was buy him the time he needed to not lose the game there. But now, 2-2 is on the way for both sides. I want to point out how light the upgrades are, as both of them still very focused on unit production. Stats has great map vision, as always. That's just kind of built in, but he's already got the charge lots lined up, adding the Ruptors in. It looks like Game 5 will be our most dramatic one yet, as the army is finally, I think for the first time this series, going to comfortably reach 200 supply. Still very tense, but it will be a max out. 2-2 for INnoVation, 12 seconds out. The charge lot spotted, but charge lots from the north as well, gonna slice through a bit of the bio here. The command center lands. Planetary starts. I love that funnel. Really setting himself up to deal with those charge lots. The bunker holds. The funnel is enough for 2 Zealots, and that's it. But perfect for making sure any non-microed Oh, just look at that base. Look at it. It's beautiful. Pause. Take a screenshot. Pretend you're ever going to build a base like that and then realize, well, let's be honest with ourselves for a moment. The closest I'll get is liking and subscribing. Yeah. On the other side, the bunker. I think what our observer's pointing out is the gas mining. But what I want to point out is how well that bunker has done for INnoVation. I don't care about a little more gas. I care about those SCVs, and those SCVs are alive because of the bunker. So, and usually in the later game, Terran is not hurting for Vespene gas so much as they are just enough minerals, and those minerals are usually quite threatened by zealots and, you know, Protoss existing. And now we have the late game. We have a fusion core on the way. Very likely for advanced ballistics. We have a fleet beacon for stats. As well as they both... He's already started a carrier and 4 more Stargates here. 4 Liberators at a time. We are just sprinting in towards the end game composition. But a Disruptor! Oh, INnoVation! Oh, it just kind of wandered in. Like, just a curveball right in there. Except it wasn't it was directly head on. He just didn't notice. Oh, that was a big hit. That Disruptor. Oh, stats lost 10 charge slots, but mostly on the other side. There was some ghosts in there. How many ghosts? Just 1. It wasn't horrible, but it definitely some unnecessary damage. INnoVation not realizing. And here we go. Another base on the way. For stats, he already has his 5th, going for his 6th at the 6 o'clock position here. The carriers, upgrades of all flavors, shapes, and sizes. We got shields, +2 air weapons, +1 air armor. He's got double cyber core. Up against ship weapons, +3/+3. When these guys macro, they macro. Oh my. Ship weapons +2, advanced ballistics, 4 Liberators at a time, and INnoVation will be maxed out. Stats is not maxed, but that is a choice here for the most part. Possibly, well, he's just adding more and more carriers. Wow, so comfortably sliding right in to this late game army. Both sides are very capable of doing critical damage. A wall of cannons and shield batteries. There is potential for a recall. Will stats actually... This is a bit of an awkward scenario. The Vikings are on the ground. This also isolates that top right base. The Liberators will siege up, but the Phoenix is uncontested here. Every Liberator is sieged. This is... Even the base trades are, like, quite surgical. Once again, amputating a base for both sides. The Phoenixes will drive back the Liberators, though they can counter them to an extent themselves. And neither side takes significant damage, though INnoVation looks like he's going to try to intercept stats on the way back. The observers, of course, spot this. A recall outmaneuvers, or does it, is the question. As the Liberators were given time to siege up, the carriers have arrived, but with the overlapping fields of liberation, the Venn diagram of freedom here, it looks like Stats is going to lose another base. INnoVation able to maneuver his units into position to defend against this before Stats kind of a bit outplayed himself with the recall there. He might have had an opportunity to outflank, but the carriers have arrived. There's still that base in the top right. I don't think INnoVation ever scouted it. He didn't. Probably not expecting Stats to... Well, he really should have. Anti-armor missile connects, but it does not affect the interceptors inside. Stats is losing another base that I think there was an attempt at a DT run by, or just zealots to the north, but easily defended. Another base down. Stats is running out of ground to retreat from. There is the danger of a massive drop in the main as well. Of course, the carriers make that a little bit of a fuzzy situation. The disruptors are zoning. The most dangerous force field. The carrier count is so damn high. This game has been so tense despite very little in the way of outright battles. It feels like the first major engagement could very well be our last. Especially now that INnoVation forcing the issue. Where are the disruptors? Looks like a shot landed underneath. Are there enough interceptors? EMP lands, dragging these into Vikings. Trying to get involved. Anti-armor missile, but Stats is clearing the field. The interceptors have +2/+1. They have the upgrades, and somehow 155 to 155 supply exactly. Though the interceptor count is still more than high enough. Wow. That one Colossus with its head in the clouds where the carriers are hanging out. It's just one carrier leading the charge. One Colossus and like, how many carriers? 11 carriers. If you don't have enough anti-air, he's going to... I'm not even sure what sieging up the Liberators does here, as there's no ground army. And it might just be enough the momentum carried through. Stats is right-clicking on things here, but 18 SCVs will go down. Oh, he killed the base to the north! As well with, I believe, I do want to check that real quick. The DTs. Stats just clears the field. He held back. INnoVation not sure. He never killed this. He finally found the base on the top right. But only now. And with a base going down and the carriers is just too much. Stats with a pretty clean execution, though. A relatively close series. Honestly, a little closer than I thought. I thought INnoVation would take a little time to kind of get back in the swing of things. But apparently not. Well, welcome back to some of the best players in StarCraft 2 history. I think they're not too far off that top level, and I'm looking forward to them once again in the coming months. So hopefully you are as well. Make sure to check out this video from Jimmy. We have a video of stats and Sue from just a few days ago. Thank you guys for watching. I hope I made your day a little bit better. Good luck, have fun. I'll see you next time. Stay chill.